Well, welcome back to See, Hear, Love and to our very first Christmas together. You've joined us on this third week of Advent, and if you missed our Monday show where we talked about joy and the joy that Christ brings to us and the world, then I want to encourage you to head on over to See, Hear, Love to watch that show so you can track along with us through the Christmas season and through our Advent. Well, I'm your host, Melinda, and I'm joined by my two co-hosts, Cheryl right here, and Kimberly, all the way from Nashville, who's been hanging out with us for a little while. Love having you here.
Oh, yes.
We also have today our See, Hear, Love blogger, and I know you've read many of her blogs. Jen Lawrence is here to help us chat about Christmas. And we also have special guest, Coach Andrew Blackwood, who's going to help us, ready, have our best Christmas ever.
No pressure.
Woo! Andrew is a psychotherapist who works in Toronto, Canada, and has just written his first book, The Art of a Genuine Apology. We're going to learn a lot from you. Glad you're here today to celebrate the week of Advent joy, which I think we need a bit of that through this season.
Yeah,
and it's timely, Coach Drew, that you're here because, you know, for many of us around the table, we could say, yeah, this is a great family time, church, community, it's great. But for a lot of people we know at Christmas, this is not a joyous time.
Right.
It's actually one they dread, and it's very lonely for some. And so I think it's great that you're here to help us and our viewers learn how to have the best Christmas ever. So because this is Wednesday and Christmas is this coming weekend, how do we prepare mentally and emotionally for the weekend with family? Because families are very different across our great world.
Very different.
Just very different.
Very different.
So let's start off with how do we, emotionally and mentally get ready for this weekend?
So, I agree. Families are very different.
Yeah.
Yet in some ways, they're a lot alike.
Okay.
Because every family is going to have their issues and their challenges.
Whew, I'm not the only one.
No,
Okay.
you're not the only one. And that's the first thing to start with. You know, remember that you're not the only one. There is no such thing as a perfect person, no such thing as a perfect family. So everyone has their issues.
Okay, good.
So one
to
of the
know.
things that robs us of joy is fear.
Okay.
So if you want to be ready for Christmas and have the best Christmas ever, it's going to be important to define your fears. Like literally write them down. What are you afraid of? What are you imagining is going to happen? Because some of us, we have these ambiguous fears. It's this feeling as, oh, I'm afraid, but I don't know exactly what I'm afraid of. But it's like, you know, the monster under the bed or the monster in the closet. When you open it and you look at it, sometimes it's like, oh, it's just a coat or it's just something. So it'd be important to really define what your fears are.
So when we're going into with family, like Aunt Helen will yell at us, or I won't get the Christmas gifts I want, and then I'm going to look very disappointed. Is that, literally writing down the fears?
Write them down, because sometimes the things that we are afraid of are so far fetched that it will never happen. Like Uncle Jerry's gonna take the drumstick off and, you know, hurl it across the table, right? It's just, but in some families, that actually might happen.
True.
Right? Which leads us to the second point. We want to be realistic about what our fears are. Because some of our fears, they're not going to happen. But some of our fears, they actually could happen.
Okay.
So the more realistic we are about that, the more we can prepare for them and we can actually set limits. So for some families, for example, can I say this? Can I say happy hour on?
Yes.
Sure, yeah, you can.
Some families, drink is a part of what they do, and sometimes going overboard is what they do.
Right.
And if that's happened for the past 10 years, it's probably going to happen again this year. So if that's going to be a challenge for you, you can set your limits for yourself personally, or you can have a plan.
Okay.
Plan to leave before happy hour. Or,
Okay.
right?
So you could leave.
That is always an option.
You could leave Christmas Day with your family if it gets too much?
Well, again, have a plan.
Yes, okay, right.
Have
I'm
a plan.
There's a right way to leave and a wrong way to leave.
Right.
Okay.
And again, we're talking about situations because some situations can be pretty extreme and pretty intense. And we make a choice. Do we want to subject ourselves to the stuff that we really find damaging and hurtful for us? It's important to know what our limitations are so we can be clear about those for ourselves and for other people.
Okay. And the third point is?
Be assertive.
Ooh.
It is tough.
Yikes.
It's tough all year round,
Yeah.
but
Hard one.
especially at Christmas, right?
Yeah.
And you know, our cultures, our family cultures, they're unique, but they're also in flux. Even if they seem like they're kind of rigid, it's important to remember that we contribute to that by what we do or what we don't do, what we say or what we don't say. So, for example, if you know there's a family member who continually embarrasses people, that's what they do,
Yes.
right?
Talk about that.
It's that's what they
Talk
do.
about
You
that.
can anticipate it. You have some choices,
Yeah.
right? You can actually be assertive and kind of address that, you know.
Yeah, are these resonating with any of you? Like, everybody's really quiet and listening, but I mean,
Yeah, we need
that are some
help.
things.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
to be more assertive, would you say that you need to kind of say more about what you're hoping or expecting or calling out something?
And
Or
especially, I mean, I'm in a new blended family,
Yeah.
and so our boundaries aren't necessarily known because it's two groups that are coming together, and we
right.
haven't really established that kind of long-term how we do holidays together. And so
Yeah.
sometimes because you haven't established that boundary, people will run against it, and rather than taking offense, you think, hey, if I just kind of put up that, you know, here's where the lines are in the first place, it probably would avoid a lot of conflict. So
Oh,
that's
yes.
certainly something
That's
that
a
I
good
want to
one.
walk into
We
this
definitely
season.
Yeah.
want to be
Yeah.
we want to be clear about what we feel comfortable with, what we don't feel comfortable with. And I mean, you don't want to necessarily speak on behalf of everyone,
Yeah.
but you do want to be clear so that people can actually choose. So it doesn't have to be an embarrassing statement about me for me to say something, because if I hear it, if it's done in front of me, it's free game. Like
Right, yeah.
it's right.
Yeah,
So
because there's this
Yeah.
there's this common sort of like we're gonna pick on someone. There's that certain member that always gets picked on and put down and made to feel like they haven't accomplished that much in that year.
right, and that's
So
what we want to look forward to for Christmas, right?
Yeah, right. So it's about
important-
advocating, is what you're saying.
Exactly,
Yeah.
to say, you know what, everyone's entitled to their opinion, Uncle Bob or Auntie Jane,
Yeah.
whatever. However, let's remember to be respectful. We came here to share
It's good.
time
So
with
good.
each other,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So
So
you can
good.
actively change the culture.
Okay, that's
and I
good.
mean, so there are things that you can do and say in the moment, but ideally, you want to be proactive, which is the next point.
which is number 4, which is point 4 is to be
Right?
proactive.
Exactly, similar to what you were talking about, Jen. When families are coming together, there might be boundaries that are not clear. So if you can get ahead of that train, why not? If there's been an issue that hasn't been well addressed or something that you know
Right.
that's come up and you haven't said anything before,
Right.
pick up the phone, call somebody to say, you know what, this may be a little, awkward, but I want to address this before we all get together.
Right.
You can even give them the benefit of the doubt. Say, I know you're just trying to be funny and I don't think you want to hurt anybody's feelings. However, last year when you said this, it struck a chord with me, right? It really impacted me.
I like that.
I love this
That's good.
proactive piece because I mean, could you also like sort of set up a family plan? Like if you have an uncle that maybe is struggling with alcoholism or has got a problem in that area, that we're gonna kind of give Uncle so and so maybe this amount, and then we're all gonna agree to cut him off. Kind of.
It gets tricky,
Yeah.
right? Because every family is different. But we don't want to necessarily sound like we're teaming up and ganging up on someone.
Okay.
We do want to be respectful and approach people directly as much as possible.
Okay.
And that ties into the next point. Knowing people, accepting people for who they are and where they are, right? I do believe that people change. I'm in the business of helping people change,
Right,
so I
right.
believe it's possible.
Yeah.
However, if people aren't open or ready for that change and aren't ready to commit to a change, then it's going to be,
Even crazy
Difficult.
Aunt Bertha.
Yes.
who might not be so crazy.
Yeah, maybe not crazy.
right?
Maybe it's well,
might
because
not
for
be
you,
so crazy.
Accepting
Kim,
her,
I think
okay.
because this is your second Christmas now in a new blended family. These are some key things.
Last year was our first kind of blended Christmas, and when my husband said, I don't like Christmas, I'm like, "Pfft, everybody likes
Right? How can
Christmas.
you
Like,
not like
whatever,
Christmas?"
it's awesome. I love Christmas.
Yeah.
And we had just moved to Tennessee, and everything was new, and I didn't like the Christmas lights, and I didn't like anything. But because he's experienced some very bad Christmases, and so have his boys, they don't like it. And I'm like, oh, and it was awful.
Yeah.
I was like, this is the worst Christmas I've ever had, only because it was just kind of boring.
So you need these tips.
Yeah,
that
so like how do
to
you
be assertive,
So
to be
this year I'm
proactive.
like, I am buying new lights and new decorations
Right.
and just going to do it and be happy
Yes.
in it.
Which is-
Yeah,
And
that's good.
and just love on the people, right? Is that
Right.
all you do? You just
Yeah.
love on the people?
Yeah.
Right.
And
Which
maybe
is an even bigger question that you could,
How-
like, how do we redeem?
how do we redeem Christmas?
Christmas.
How do you get
Holiday.
someone to go, oh,
Yeah.
actually it's good.
You know, it's
good.
it's
Again.
part of a journey, knowing
Okay.
people, accepting where they are, and what's happened to them.
Right.
Right. So you don't necessarily want to wait till Christmas Day. To
Yeah,
like,
probably
we're
not.
gonna fix Christmas today. Right? If there's been loss or
Right.
pain around
Yes.
Yes,
Christmas, you
there-
want to
yes.
again, you want to get ahead
Before.
of that and start to address
Yeah.
that, start to
Yes.
process that, and work through that.
Okay, so now that was number
Okay.
5,
That was
was
number
accept
5.
people, and then number 6 point on our, so it's the top 6 things to do to ensure that you have the best Christmas ever,
Yes.
and to deal with your family emotionally and mentally. Number 6, our last point is,
Be a good model. Be a
Yeah.
good role model.
Of
Okay.
course.
Right, Christmas is all about joy and togetherness
Yes.
and loving and but like I said before, families, we have stuff,
Yeah.
and if we don't address those things, they're going to kind of be in the background or they're going to bubble up.
Yeah.
So being a good model means, as the title of the book,
Yeah.
that I wrote, The Art of a Genuine Apology, learning how to do that well, and addressing the things that you want to take responsibility for.
that's good,
Right?
yeah.
And we all have our own values, and it's important to live up to those values and live in accordance with those values. So, again, being proactive. You don't necessarily want to wait till Christmas morning to bring up the issue. Get ahead of it, say, you know what, when I did this last year, I imagine it impacted you this way. And
Okay.
I want you to know that I've been thinking about that, and I'm sorry about that.
You know, Coach Drew, that's good, because I bet so many families across the world, when they meet, it's like, just pretend there's no problems. Like, it's Christmas, so sweep it under the
Yes.
rug. Let's not
Right.
everybody put on a happy face, and
Right.
we're all good.
Right.
But then you leave, and you're more miserable because you're like, we just celebrated this special day of Jesus
Right.
coming, or
Right.
whatever you're as far as a celebration of what you do, and you come out and go, that wasn't great because there was all these issues we didn't address.
Exactly,
Right.
exactly.
Which only perpetuates this sort of like, it feels fake, it feels foreign, it's not authentic.
So I love this intentionality to say, let's be proactive
Love that.
before. I mean, this is sort of the week before Christmas, so there are a few days here
Right.
before
Yeah.
Christmas that people can kind of go in on the phone and call and be assertive and proactive.
Exactly. And one of the things about, one of the biggest hindrances to apologizing is that we know hurts often happen both ways. And when people attempt to apologize, they have these expectations. That one, if I apologize to you, I expect something in return. We might not be vocal about it, but it's important to know that an apology, a genuine apology like forgiveness, no strings attached.
Right.
If you're prepared to say, this is what I did, and you know what, that's not who I am, that's not who I want to be, then you offer that. If there is an expectation for something in return, you may likely be disappointed,
Yes.
Right.
and you are not ready to offer that apology.
Right.
Because forgiveness and reconciliation are two very different things.
That's true.
Yes.
Very
Yes.
different things.
And in your book, the Art of a Genuine Apology, you talk through where you say, what an apology is, then forgiveness and reconciliation.
Yeah.
They're all 3 different things.
Very different things.
And sometimes we say, oh, well, forgiveness has strings attached. When I forgive someone, then they have to forgive me, or everything has to be okay.
Right.
Which isn't necessary.
Or I forget, like, what they didn't
Yeah.
matter.
Right.
It's okay, I'll take the risk if it happens again. That's a completely different conversation,
Yeah.
Right.
right? So it's important to know, again, what your concerns are, what your fears are. Are they realistic? And if they are, what are you going to do about that? What are you prepared for? And when you've done something wrong, if you've contributed to the family stuff, what are you going to do to take responsibility for that?
good.
So that it doesn't happen
Good.
again.
Okay, girls,
Yes.
quick question to Coach Drew to answer in regards to your family, anything. Let's go. To end the show, any questions you have for Coach Drew. Let's go.
How do we go about setting those boundaries without offending?
Very good question.
That is a good question. Setting
So
boundaries without offending. Okay.
there is no guarantee that you will not offend someone.
Okay.
But you can only do your best, right? You can acknowledge at the head of it, I don't mean to offend you. I might not choose the right words, and help me figure this out if I say this wrong. But this is my concern. Again, because you've already written out what your concerns are, it will be clear. This
Yeah.
is my concern.
Yeah.
And then you put it out there.
Okay. It's good. And so, and you've got to make that move. You can't just always expect that they read your mind or read your mind and know, even if I look like this, and I'm giving them a look like,
Right.
I don't know,
You remember that
remember
thing?
Remember that thing I did? Remember my eyebrow went up when I looked at you when you did that? No. Okay, that's a good one.
So you don't
Okay.
say to the husband and the children, "You will enjoy this day."
Right.
No, but I love how you said we model it, right? If we walk in love and in joy, then maybe that will like trickle out a little
That's
bit in
the
the
hope.
home,
Again,
right?
we're bringing to our
Yeah.
family culture.
Yeah, I
It's
love that.
evolving always. So bring what you have, but be
Yeah.
receptive to, again, where somebody is, what their
Yes.
pains
Good.
are.
Love them where they're
And
at.
don't expect them to just be happy.
Yes.
That's a lot of
Right.
pressure, right?
True.
Right?
It is.
Yeah.
We
Just
bring
like
that.
Jesus did. He joined us where we were. So we find
Yes.
ways to
Yes.
join people, and believe it or not, that helps them move a little bit further, a little bit faster.
It's good. Jen, question?
Just, I guess, how do we separate the reality from that kind of Hallmark Channel Christmas without getting kind of bitter, you know?
Yeah,
Like
that's good.
embracing the reality in a way that's gracious.
Yeah. Oh, that's good.
That's a tough one because there are some things
Yeah.
that we don't want to accept, but it's important to accept this is who we are, this
Right.
is where we are. But spend more time thinking about what is really good and what you actually like. For example, there are some family members, they share stories, and if you really try to figure out what's true from what's not, you will not enjoy Christmas, right? But if you
Stories.
if you
Yeah.
focus more on the fact that, you know what, they're just having a good time and they can tell a good story.
Right.
Whether or not it's true, that
The
really,
little sauce, embellishment,
right? You can
Right.
And
enjoy
with
that.
social media, it amplifies
Oh,
that.
it
With
does.
social
Yeah.
media, you scroll through on the holidays and it's like, wow, are we the only dysfunctional bunch in the world?
No. No.
So this is helpful
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
just
I-
share around the table.
I just gotta say, I love this conversation because if there's ever a time to make amends, if there's ever a time,
No. would be the
it's
time.
now.
Yeah.
We are the most warmest, the most pleasant to one another. There's something about Christmas, even strangers smile.
Yeah.
It is the love that Christ brought to the season, and I think it's a perfect time
Yeah.
to really implement.
And
those
I love that.
things.
And I think it
Yes.
comes on, as I'm listening, I'm being quite convicted because there are, some people I need to talk to. And I need to, make some amends. And, within family, there's been expectations and things that have happened. And after year, it just sort of builds.
Yeah.
And you're kind of here and you're like, you either keep going or you've got to, work some things out. So I love those steps. I know those 6 points are going to be on our website. We're going to have that. I also know that your book is amazing because if you're struggling with an apology, forgiveness, and reconciliation, your new book is great for that. It's like a walkthrough on how to do it, and I think it's perfect for Christmas or even into the new year. Coach Drew,
Right.
I better start apology, how to do
We
it.
could give it as gifts to
Yeah,
everybody.
actually, we could give it as Christmas. Is that what you're doing?
And then you open up the gift and you're like,
Wait a second.
Exactly.
But then you apologize written in the book.
Right,
Here's
exactly.
my apology.
love that.
So I tell people if you're going to give this book to someone for Christmas, make sure you read it first
Right.
and model it. That way you can
Right.
say,
Very
I've
good.
read this and I want to address this with you.
Okay.
And then you give them the book.
So these are the 3 steps: buy the book,
Yeah.
model, but then when you present it, do it like this.
Here you
With the
are,
face.
art of a genuine apology. Oh, Coach Drew, thank you so much. You got to come back and
Yeah, it's awesome.
help us actually come back and ask us how we did
I would love
at our
that.
Christmas with our families.
little
It's
check-in.
great. Thanks to Cheryl, Kim, and Jen for being here. Your thoughts, your questions, and I hope you have a great Christmas as well, or Christmas
too.
weekend as you celebrate it. And for your viewers, you're going to want Coach Drew's 6 helpful tips for connecting with family over Christmas. It's all up on our website. His book, too, how you can get his book will be up on our website at seehearelove.com. And maybe you can even do an Ask Coach Drew. We'll figure that out, because I think there's going to be lots of questions that you have for him. Thanks for joining us on this Wednesday, the week before Christmas. We hope that you are joyful, that Christ will fill your hearts and minds with joy as you experience the beauty and wonder of Christmas. Have a great day, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.